Hey vinyl community and everyone watching. This is Glenn, your low-end music freak. This is part two of a video I did recently, a 66-year-old's love affair with the Fab Four, where I discussed experiencing the Beatles' career from 64 to 70 and how it impacted my life. This is a continuation of that, a 66-year-old's love affair with the Beatles, part two, the solo years. So I thought what I would do, I was considering ranking some of the solo albums, and then I thought, nah, I thought maybe I'll just talk about the essential ones. I was kind of taking it from the viewpoint of someone who, maybe a younger person, like my nephew Jack, who's really heavy into the Beatles, but has a couple of solo records, but not many, and it's kind of overwhelming. I mean, there's a ton of albums out there. McCartney has a ton, and Lennon, and Ringo, and George, and what do you buy? So I'm kind of just going to discuss the essential ones and maybe tell a couple of stories along the way. So let's just get started. I think if you're looking at delving into the Beatles solo catalog, the first one I would buy is the epic All Things Must Pass. This is a masterpiece. George really, he had a lot of songs built up because he was only really allowed a couple of songs on an album. When the Beatles broke up and he went into the studio and recorded All Things Must Pass. This is a double album. Every song's amazing on it. It's actually a triple album. The two records are George's songs, and the third bonus record is a jam session. But this is essential. Every song is a gem. It came out of nowhere at the time. I don't think anybody expected George to put out this high quality of music, especially over two records. Great option if you're looking for a start to your solo Beatles catalog. Next, John. I think this is the best album he's ever done. I don't think he's ever topped it. The Plastic Ono Band album. This has Mother on it and Working Class Hero. John's really passionate on this album. God's on this album too, where he says, I don't believe in Beatles, I just believe in Yoko and me. He was trying to bury the whole Beatle thing and move on, but I don't think John's ever done a better record than this. Next, I would have to go with two McCartney albums in a row. Ram. This was Paul's second solo album. I think these albums, McCartney and Ram, didn't get the praise they deserved at the time because I think they were too close to the Beatles breakup, and I get the feeling they were kind of matching them against the Beatles catalog at the time, and maybe people were expecting more, but as the years have gone by, and I think history has been very kind to these records. They sound great. They're really solid from start to finish. Love Ram. It's a great album. I'm going to quickly move to the first one then, because I also think that's essential, was McCartney. This is the first thing Paul did when the Beatles announced the split. If I remember correctly, there was an insert in this album with a few interview questions on it, where they asked Paul questions about whatever and hinting that the Beatles were done. Anyway, McCartney on the Apple label. I love this album. It's got Maybe I'm Amazed on it, which, that's one of Paul's greatest songs, but the whole album's great. He played every song on this, every instrument on this record. Stands up great today. I think it's a great record. It's very raw. Terrific record. Next, I'm going to go, because I think this was also a surprise, Ringo. Ringo has a whole, I don't know how many records Ringo has out, solo albums, maybe 15, maybe more. I'm not sure. This is the only one I love. I mean, I can listen to the others, but this one is actually the one that I think stands up to Paul and George and John's music, which I don't think most people think Ringo could compete with the talent of those three. But this album's fantastic. It's actually the only solo album where all four Beatles appear on it. Photograph is on this record, which is a great hit. You're 16 was another big hit for Ringo. Oh My, I'm the Greatest, which was written by John Lennon. This album has all four Beatles on it, and it's a really great pop album. Fantastic. Next, I'm going to go back to the John Lennon catalog. My second favorite John Lennon album, Walls and Bridges. This was recorded in L.A. Around 1975 when he had his breakup with Yoko and was hanging out with Harry Nilsson and whoever. But this is a really solid album. Steel and Glass, Whatever Gets You Through the Nights on this album has turned out to be a big hit. Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out. Dream Number 9, which is a great song. Fantastic album. Next, what would I pick? I think we got to go back to McCartney. This is one of my favorite McCartney albums too, Venus and Mars. I think it's got a lot of great songs on it. It's funny, Listen to What the Man Said is on this album. And when that was on the radio back in the day, I thought it was kind of a wimpy, kind of, Paul has a tendency to do some kind of wimpy songs. And I didn't quite give it the chance it required. And now I think it's a great song. I know the horn parts were arranged by Alan Toussaint, which really makes the song. That's why I think I love it so much. But Venus and Mars and Rock Show, Letting Go is a great song. Medicine Jar, Listen to What the Man Said was the hit. Great album. Next, let's go back to John. Imagine. Obviously, John's signature song is Imagine. This album's pretty good. It's also got Jealous Guy on it, Crippled Inside. Also gets more political on this album with Give Me Some Truth, I Don't Want to Be a Soldier Mama, I Don't Want to Die. Then he does the controversial How Do You Sleep, written about Paul McCartney and their animosity towards each other in those days. But great album from John. Next, I got to go back to Paul. Band on the Run. I mean, it's a fantastic album from start to finish. I think it was recorded in Nigeria or something. If I got the country right, or Laos or something. Or Band on the Run's great. With Denny Lane was in Wings at this point. The song Band, there was a lot of hits off it here. Band on the Run, Jet. Let Me Roll, it's a great song, which to me sounds like a John Lennon song. I don't know if Paul did that purposely. Hell on Wheels is also another song that was on here. 1984 is great. Love this album. I think it stood the test of time. It was a great album when it came out, and it's still a great album. Last but not least, George's rest of his catalog from All Things Must Pass. I don't know if I have a favorite. I really like them all. I mean, George really hasn't put out a bad album. I picked this one just to show you, 33 1/3. I really like this album. The hit off of this was called This Song, but this is a really nice album. It's solid from start to finish. There's not a bad song on it. Also, other George Harrison's album, Living in a Material World's great. Extra Texture's good. You can't go wrong, really, with the George Harrison album. None of them are hard on the ears. A couple of stories. So when I was living in Toronto in an apartment, I can't remember the date. It was early 2000s. Paul McCartney was coming to town. One thing you know about me is I don't listen to the radio. I don't like FM radio, terrestrial radio. I haven't listened to it for years. I can't stand the format. The same songs over and over and over again. I really like deep cuts and things like that. So I'm always taking CDs in the car or If I didn't have a CD player in the car, it would be my iPod. So I always playing my own music in the car. Anyway, one morning I'm leaving for work and I forgot my iPod. So I get downstairs and I pull out of my underground garage and I put on Q107, which is the classic rock station in Toronto at the time. And they're talking about having a contest to win Paul McCartney tickets. Now they've got me interested. The question they asked was, what is Paul McCartney's first name? I thought, well, geez, this is, tickets will be gone in 2 seconds. It seemed like minutes went by and people were calling up and they were putting them live on the air and people were saying, well, Paul's his first name, or no one could figure it out. So I dial in and I get through and I say James. I feel like this is like 5 minutes after the contest started and I'm the winner. So I win Paul McCartney tickets. That's the first time I got to see Paul McCartney live. I'd never seen him before, and I was so excited. My wife and I went to the show. It was fantastic. I mean, it's just a hits machine. You can't go wrong. I mean, all these Beatles songs and the McCartney solo songs. It was a great night. I've seen him since on another occasion, but that was just a great experience for me. The other kind of funny experience is Ringo. So 1989, Ringo puts the All-Star Band together. This is his first one. It was an incredible lineup. Joe Walsh, Billy Preston, Dr. John, Levon Helm, Rick Danko. Who am I missing? Oh, I don't know. It was an incredible lineup of performers. So I got online and got tickets right away. I ended up with about 6th row, center stage. The concert was during the Canadian National Exhibition, which takes place the last couple of weeks of the summer, just before Labor Day weekend. And they had a stadium there called Exhibition Stadium. So the day of the show, my buddy and I, we go down, and the exhibition was on, so we hit a beer tent, and we were in the beer tent all afternoon, getting well lubricated. Half an hour before showtime, we get to our seats, and we got great seats. We're sitting there, and there's a few people around, and we're all talking and socializing, and who comes walking up 2 or 3 rows ahead of me and sits directly in front of me? Barbara Bach, Ringo's wife. So she's sitting there, and she's in this white pantsuit, and I'm going, wow, that's Ringo's wife. So at the same time, teenage boy comes around. He's one of the ice cream vendors. I see him come down the aisle, and I motion him over. I say, I want to buy an ice cream bar. So I give him the $4 or whatever for an ice cream bar. And I said, hey, see that woman sitting 3 or 4 rows ahead of me? I said, her name's Barbara. She's a really good friend of mine. Can you give her this ice cream bar? And I bought another one. I said, give her the ice cream bar. Say it was from Glen. Glen said hi. So everybody around us were all kind of watching what was going on. So the poor kid goes up the aisle and he starts walking down the road towards Barbara Bach, and he gets within about 2 or 3 seats of her. And these 2 burly security guards grab him and start roughing him up, and they push him down the aisle, out into the aisle and back up. And he's all kind of disheveled and freaked out about what happened, how he got assaulted. And he comes walking up past the row we're going, and I go, hey buddy, give me my money back. You never delivered the ice cream bar. But everybody was laughing around. But anyway, that's my my sad attempt at trying to buy Ringo's wife an ice cream bar. Anyway, you can't go wrong with solo Beatles stuff. I mean, it's one band where, I mean, obviously that the Beatles from 64 to 70, it's crazy, just the 7-year period, the music they put out, it's unbelievable. But they've done a lot of, we kind of, I guess, lucked out in a way. Everybody thinks it's unfortunate they split up, and look at the wealth of music that came out of it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out some solo Beatle albums if you're just into the Beatles, and I hope some of my suggestions work out for you. Thanks for watching. Take care.